paying attention, you'll notice that I've referred to this engine as a 12-cylinder or a W12, but not a V12, which is how you call most 12-cylinder engines. That's because this isn't a V12. It is literally a W12, and Volkswagen created it by putting two V6 engines together to create a W12. Now, the standard V8 engine in this car was pretty powerful. It had 335 horsepower, but the W12 was a monster. It had 420 horsepower and 406 pound-feet of torque. But beyond the engine, I'm going to start on the inside. Now remember, I told you this was a Mercedes-Benz S-Class competitor, but Volkswagen knew they'd be playing at a disadvantage with the Volkswagen brand name against an established rival like the S-Class. So this car is full of some of the most insane luxury features for a 2004 model you will ever see. So get ready to be more impressed by a Volkswagen than you've ever been. I will start with a window defogger. Now in your car, you have a windshield defogger. Fine, everybody does. In this car, there are defoggers for the front side windows. You can push a little button and then there's a vent right below the windows that keeps them from fogging up. And the rear windows have them too. The owner of this car told me he has never been able to get the windows to fog up in 7 years and 80,000 miles of ownership. And since we're on the subject of those rear windows, this car has a rear sunshade in the back window, and it has sunshades for both windows and the back doors. That much is normal in a luxury sedan, but Volkswagen, again, wanted to go above and beyond the S-Class, so there's even little tiny sunshades in the rear quarter windows. You can put on these sunshades and be fully shaded from whatever sun is coming through these little 4-inch windows. That is attention to detail. And that's not the only crazy feature in the back seat. In fact, things are just beginning back here. Starting with this. Now, this car has 4-zone climate control. So there are zones for the driver and passenger, and then 2 more zones in the back seat, which means that I can have my air temperature back here in a completely different setting than everyone else in the car. Now, that's not that uncommon for a luxury car, but this car has more than that. For example, it has heated rear seats. That's also not that uncommon for a luxury car, but check this out. It has ventilated rear seats. That's really uncommon for a luxury car. And it gets even crazier. This car has massaging rear seats. You've heard of massaging seats in the front. This car has it in the back. The owner of this car told me he's been thinking about trying to replace it, and he's been going to luxury car dealers saying, hey, what has massaging rear seats? And the salespeople look at him like he's crazy, even though this thing had it almost 15 years ago. Massage. And of course, the rear features aren't done yet. How about this? Each rear door has its own lock and unlock button. That's not that uncommon. You probably will find that in an S-Class. What you won't find? Each rear door has its own ashtray. Yep, that's right. There's one for each rear passenger. Now, in the center, of course, there's a little armrest that you can put down, and then you can rest your arms on it. Again, something you'll find in most luxury sedans. What you won't find in most luxury sedans, there's not only a center armrest, but there's a center headrest. So when you have someone sitting in the middle seat, you can put up the headrest, and when you don't, you can put it away for better visibility. Again, amazing thinking. And this center armrest has cup holders. That, again, is pretty common. Less common, they're individual cup holders, so you don't have to stare at some ugly, empty cup holder if you're sitting back here alone and you want to sip your drink. Oh, and speaking of the rear headrest, something truly amazing about this car that I've never seen in any other car. When you open the back door to climb in this car, the headrest automatically whirs into place where you will be most comfortable. If the car detects that you've opened the door and then closed it and no one has gotten in, the headrest goes automatically back down so the driver has more visibility. Of course, if the car detects that you have gotten in, then it keeps the headrest in place so that you can use it. That means the headrest is always out of the way when there's no rear passenger, and when there is a rear passenger, it's in the most comfortable possible position. It's amazing. And the other thing I love back here, when you go to open the little lid containing the cigarette lighter power socket, you push it and then it sort of glides open gently instead of just popping open, because this is a luxury car. Up front, 2 items do that. One is obviously the glove box. Push the little glove box opener button and then it gently opens right up. The other is far more impressive. The panel below the steering column and the driver's footwell that contains the fuses, even that opens gently. But back to the glove box, you'll find something interesting in there. That's the little black zippered leather book that says Phaeton on the outside. That contains all of the navigation CDs for all of the regions of the United States, back when that was still a thing. Now, interestingly, that leather book is unique to the Phaeton. It says Phaeton on it, and that's not all that surprising, but weirdly, the discs themselves are unique to the Phaeton. They're each labeled for the Phaeton only. I guess if you got a Passat, you didn't get the same navigation discs as someone in a Phaeton. I wonder what the Phaeton's discs have on them that the Passats don't. Perhaps all the locations of five-star restaurants and banks. But that just scratches the surface of the goldmine of quirks and features that is the front seat of a Volkswagen Phaeton. Now, I will start with the child locks. Now, a lot of cars have child locks, and you can lock the back doors separate from the regular locks so your kids don't randomly open them while you're driving, and the Phaeton has those. Now, most cars have just a little lever inside the door itself. You click it, and then the door is locked. Nicer cars have a button over on the driver's switch panel by the power windows that you can lock and unlock the child locks. This car has individual child locks, meaning that you can turn the child locks on one side rear door and not the other side, in case you have a child on one side and an adult on the other. I have never seen that before in any luxury car. Maybach, Rolls-Royce, never. It is truly, truly impressive. And then we move on to the climate vents. Oh, the climate vents, one of the craziest things about the Phaeton. Now, the entire Phaeton has a ton of wood all over the interior, and the climate vents, well, they're just disappeared when the car is off. They're wood too. The climate vents don't actually reveal themselves until you turn on the car and turn the climate control to some temperature where they are required. And then the wood panels over the climate vents were open, and they reveal the climate vents so they can blast whatever air is necessary. You'll notice that the middle climate vent panel actually has a cutout for the clock, so the clock can always be displayed whether the climate vents are up or down. Now, the really crazy thing is when you have the climate control set to auto, sometimes those vents will remain closed. The car can get to